they manipulate emotions to make us not focus on logic. And so they show you all of these scenes of people dying in the hospital, and they make you feel guilty if you don't get the shot, if you don't put the mask on. And they know that most humans have a good heart. We're mostly empathetic. And so we want to do what's right. And so they pull at the emotional heartstrings. It's a common marketing tactic that they do across all platforms and all companies.
So talk about fear. So when's the next COVID going to happen?
Yeah, right. I've been hearing that it's already another strands floating around. I don't know. It's just so interesting that they can make up a whole sickness and change the whole world overnight like that. It's crazy to me.
So how many times were you thrown out of Starbucks? I would say at least 5 times for me.
Never. I've never been thrown out, but there's a Starbucks I don't go to as often because I had to call them to tell them how bad of a job they do.
Well, I'm talking about in 2020 when you try to walk into somewhere and your mask is not perfectly above your
Oh,
nose, or your mask is not perfectly being worn. And I guess it wasn't as bad in Florida, so you guys, it was probably a little easier in Florida, but for us out here in California, it was madness, ridiculousness that you couldn't get air, right? They didn't want you in social situations, which is bad for your health. You're supposed to be around people. And number two, they wanted to they wanted to control your air. And so I mean, when did we get to this madness where, I mean, you get to a point where people are completely ignoring the fact that, number one, you need sun as a human being. You need sun, you need social interactions, and you need air. And they're trying to block those things. I think a kid in high school somewhere like passed out because they made him run a race with his mask on.
yeah. So
Like,
this is actually a huge issue. I actually had an issue with my son's school because when he actually started school when COVID first started. He was in first grade. So it was his first experience in school and everyone's in masks. Long story short, he got in trouble on the playground for not having his mask on outside on a playground. They took away his privileges. And I wrote the longest email to the principal. I said, how dare you tell my son to put a mask on outside in fresh air? And ever since then, I felt like he was being targeted at the school because I spoke up about that. So I think that bringing it back to your question, it has a lot to do with psychology. So what they do is they manipulate emotions to make us not focus on logic. And so they show you all of these scenes of people dying in the hospital, and they make you feel guilty if you don't get the shot, if you don't put the mask on. And they know that most humans have a good heart. We're mostly empathetic. And so we want to do what's right. And so they pull at the emotional heartstrings. It's a common marketing tactic that they do across all platforms and all companies. They pull at the heartstrings.
and so what do you think? I mean, I'm just curious because I mean, you're really thoughtful in a lot of the things that you talk about. And of course, I follow you every day. I watch all your stuff. And I think that, you're very thoughtful. And so why do you think this is happening? What is there, do you believe that there is this new world order that they're trying to bring to us, and they're trying to get us to fall in line like good little soldiers so that way they can control us better in the future? I mean, what the heck is going on? Like, why, like, what rational human being would make some of the decisions that they're making? I mean, why would they open the borders? I mean, 10,000, I think 11,000 illegals came into the country just yesterday. So there's probably going to be another 10,000 to come in today. So that's 10,000 people that we don't even know who they are that are coming through our border every single day. They're making these policies. They're making these decisions that are completely horrible for America. Like, why would they be doing these things?
That's such a good question. And, none of us will ever know the full details of the answer, but I would say not New World Order, but One World Order. And if they can get, so the difference between all the different countries and different customs and cultures is we believe differently. We live our lives differently, all in different countries, right? If they can get us all under one umbrella to follow the same tactics and the same mind control, they have an army now of workers to do what they say. It's a huge fleet that they've created. Instead of the division of the borders, now they have a huge fleet of one world order, one mindset. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just, I mean, to me, it's tragic, and it's really interesting because we got this world that we're living in now where it's just okay now. I mean, everything is just okay. And so they look at a state like Florida. So DeSantis, I think, has done a great job in Florida. But you look at a country like a state like Florida that has done so incredibly well throughout that COVID little piece of time. They did so well, and then they're just going to bring it back, and they're going to do the same. They're going to make the same bad choices. They're going to shut down the same people, the same restaurants. I mean, you got to be kidding me. We're going to go through the same thing again. And the reason, like, I think the reason has to do with just money. I mean, it's just big pharma. They want to get people scared again. It's kind of like the flu shot, right? Every single year, people were told you need a flu shot. I never got a flu shot, and I never got sick. But yet everybody that I knew got the flu shot. They were always getting sick all the time. So it's just like, how are people so blindly doing the things that the government or big pharma or the commercials or whatever, they just fall in line? Like, the branding, the manipulation, the psychology behind all of this stuff is so powerful. And we're talking about branding. We're talking about how to build our own brands. We can take some of these things that they're doing and throw them into our own personal playbooks. I mean, can we?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't recommend that. I think your point of money is accurate, and it's going to be the one type of currency. That is why I think they're merging the borders, creating uncertainty in the world. Think about it. When you don't know if we're going to have a World War III tomorrow, are you going to dream big? Are you going to chase big goals? Are you going to try to fight against anything? Are you going to try to make change? No, we don't know what tomorrow brings. And that's the kind of manipulation psychology that they're doing to people. Is you don't even know if you can make it to next week, because we don't know if a new COVID's going to hit, if a bomb's going to, you know what I'm saying? It's the uncertainty leads us to lack of action. And also, most of us are stuck in a hamster wheel of needing the income of our 9 to 5. And so you can't speak up online. I have a lot of friends, when I would speak up a lot on my Facebook, they would write me and say, thanks for saying that, because I can't, I'd lose my job. And I used to feel so bad for them that they literally can't say what they feel. And then I started copying that tactic and not saying what I felt, because I thought I was losing clients because of it. And so it's that fear that leads back to the money that we all need to survive. We need the job, we need the clients, right? So we're not going to speak up because we don't want to rub anybody the wrong way, so on and so forth. So it leads to that ripple effect.
And so it's almost like we're in a never-ending cycle with just the way that I mean, because I think pharma, big pharma, hundreds of billions of dollars by people getting that shot. So of course they're going to want. I mean, they wanted little kids, 5 years old, to get the shot. Like, how does that make sense? I mean, it was like zero chance that they're going to die of COVID. And ultimately, I mean, most of the people that died, I still question a lot of the results that they got on as many people that died due to COVID. They were paying, if I'm not mistaken, they were paying doctors basically more money when they would, declare that the person died of COVID. They would get more money versus if they didn't die of COVID. So of course, people were fighting, and they were saying, "Wait a minute, this person didn't die of COVID," but they checked that box, they died of COVID, so they got more money. Do you remember that happening?
Oh, absolutely. And I believe that they do that with all kinds of studies. Is they're paying the person putting up the study, they're paying them to create specific results that lean more towards the outcome that they want. And so you can't trust studies, you can't trust numbers anymore. It's actually interesting because science is proving that there's markers in our voice that can detect sickness.
If you like this video and you want to watch another one, click right here. If you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.